Hello and welcome to the second episode of a brand new show on Cable 14 called Coming to Hamilton. My name is Daniel Hyams and this is a show that is all about people that have chosen to come to Hamilton, chosen to settle here and chosen to make new lives for themselves in the city of Hamilton. I came here just over 3 years ago, and on the last episode I introduced you to two people who came from Africa and from Europe. And after that show I was doing some research for this show and I came across what I received when I arrived here on December 30th, 2012 as a landed immigrant from the United Kingdom. And it was the orientation book of what they called Welcome to Canada. And I thought I would share with you this book because I actually forgot that I had it. And looking at it 3 years later, I had some interesting thoughts that I thought I would share with you, because this is the sort of information that people who arrive in Canada as newcomers, wherever they go in the country, this is the sort of information they receive. And looking at it 3 years later, I wondered whether or not it was actually relevant or whether or not it was actually very helpful. The book talks about the history of Canada, it talks about the provinces and how the political system is set up. Then it talks about what's going on in Canada and how to integrate into the community. It offers advice about housing, education, healthcare. It also offers information about setting up new businesses and how the tax system works. Hamilton also gets a little mention, and I will read you a little bit. It talks about Hamilton being the western end of Lake Ontario and is long known for its steel industry and other manufacturing, increasingly known for construction, food and beverage, healthcare and educational institutions. So Hamilton is already on the radar of newcomers to Canada. And I'm very, very pleased to introduce to you someone who I met a couple of weeks ago through a mutual friend, Stephanie Waller. Lucio, I'm going to say this wrong, I knew I was going to, Barcaroli.
Perfect.
I said it right.
Perfect.
Lucio, welcome to the show. So you came to Canada when you were 3, went back to Italy at 13, back to you tell the story.
Thank you for having me. So yes, my parents and I, we arrived in Hamilton in 1967, and the idea was that we would always go back. So unlike other newcomers that had come at the time, my folks had a different idea that they were going to stay for a period of time and then leave. So due to a car accident, we weren't able to fulfill that plan, but they thought that they'd sent me ahead of time to start high school in Italy in 1978. So at 13, I went back to Italy and came back here when it didn't work out there, and started all over again. So basically, I started again at the age of, I forget how old I was, 15 at the time.
And from Italy, you came straight to Hamilton?
Yes.
Twice?
Yes.
This is like
Yes.
part 2.
So the first time, as a little fellow with not much to say about the whole matter. The second time, definitely a lot more to say about it. And it was then that I probably made the most conscious choice to actually stay, but also really embrace Hamilton and make it home.
You brought some images that I know that you want to share with our viewers. These are images of when you first...
Yes. So this was taken, we came on board the Queen Anne Marie, which was a Greek-owned liner, and you can't, I can't point it out to you, but my mom, myself, and my dad are at the very, very back. And this was, I guess, a photo of some of the newcomers. And I don't know how they categorized us or clumped us into those groups, but that was taken on board ship in 1967 while arriving.
Where was the entry point in Canada?
So we disembarked in Halifax at Pier 21 and got our landed immigrants papers there, but then proceeded to go to New York City and actually disembarked there and trained it into Hamilton. So it was thought that it would be a shorter train ride as opposed to an extra 2 days on board, a shorter train ride from New York as opposed to from Halifax.
Into Luna Station?
Yes.
The famous station that everyone talks
Actually,
about.
it was the Hunter Street station, where the GO train goes now. That's where we came. So this is the first Christmas. So the other one was taken on board ship. This one is the very first Christmas. So we arrived November 11th. 1967, so this would be Christmas Eve 1967. No furnishings, and Mom and Dad were able to still provide me with toys unto Christmas, even though they must have had probably just a few weeks to throw that together and make a home for themselves. So that was down on Burlington Street in front of Stelco, which was then Stelco. Now it's no longer that.
There's such great images. Thank you for bringing them.
Thank you.
I love looking at old pictures. So you then went back to Italy at 13 and then came back to Canada at 14. So you said that at that age you made more of a conscious choice to be here. So just tell us a little bit about that decision.
So like children of most newcomers, children don't have much of a choice. The parents are looking out for their best interest and are basically they're going to make all the decisions. So as a youngster, I remember few things, certainly starting school and meeting all the new people and people that were kind to you. So certainly people that were kind were very embedded in my memory, and there were lots of them. So when I went back and started a new life there, thinking that I would start school, my parents would join me after they were done some litigation because of a car accident, I embraced Italian life again. And when I had to come back here, because I was going to be way too long and my parents didn't want me away from them that long, I embraced Hamilton for the second time. But this time as a teenager. So I was I was in high school at this point, I was making friends, I was discovering the city and getting involved in whatever it had to offer, and I really took in as much as possible. Working part-time, volunteering, seeing all aspects of the city, talking to as many people, and trying to find out as much of the history as possible. That always interested me. In
terms of cultural identity, did you feel at that age that there was more of a feeling of being Canadian than Italian, or?
I think that I had to appreciate my Italian heritage, but I made more of an effort to feel more Canadian, for whatever that would mean. And I think that that's a personal thing. But I think it was basically just belonging and becoming very aware of the city and all it had to offer and really embracing it as home.
Do you think that the settlement in Hamilton made you feel more settled as a new Canadian?
Yes. Yes, Hamilton was, it offered, well, for my folks, it offered jobs, it offered prosperity to newcomers. We're talking 1967, it was a totally different economic world than it is now. And so for newcomers with little English, manufacturing jobs and service jobs were in abundance. So there was no economic stress on us. Jobs were abundant, so that part was that fear or worry was taken away. We could get down to business of building a home for ourselves here.
Now you've gone back to Italy, to your hometown, as an adult. Tell me about that experience of going back to where you were born and where you chose to leave behind.
So living there as a teenager during my first year of high school there, I found myself being a newcomer all over again. And although I was Italian by birth, to the folks there, I was Canadian. At this point, for them, I was socialized and grew up in Canada. So I was a newcomer there again. And in terms of seeing it as recent as this past summer, when I was there again visiting, I had a better appreciation for Hamilton. A better appreciation for everything that Canada, and especially Hamilton, had offered me, and the opportunity and the free thinking and the cultural diversity. What I left behind was a lot of wonderful relatives and a great hometown, but this was home. This was definitely home.
Would you say that you can have the best of both worlds by having a place to go in Italy whenever you want and seeing relatives? And having that here as well?
In the sense, I think yes, but I think anyone who travels and makes friends abroad has the best of both. I think that traveling is the best education. For me, it was made easy because I had that to go back to, those roots. My parents had purchased a small home over there so that they could go back to as a vacation spot. So that was easy. for us. But yes, it is really good that way. But traveling for anybody is you're going to embrace. You really appreciate home when you travel abroad.
So, as someone who made a very conscious decision as a young adult to be in Hamilton, and you've continuously made that decision, what would you say to people who have come to Hamilton and chosen to be here and perhaps are in the process of applying for Canadian citizenship?
I would say welcome. I would say if there's any way that anyone could help, ask for help, including all of us who've been here for a little bit, and good choice. I would say that Hamilton always was, and always I think will be, a very vibrant. I think it represents all the wonderful things about Canada, and embrace it, get to know it, and it has incredible history. Mm.
Are there times when you think, what would my life be like if I chose Italy?
Yes, yes. In fact, there was a point where as soon as I became of age 19, the Italian government, because I had been born there, and even though I was a Canadian citizen in Canada, sent me draft papers. So if you were there, you would have been drafted into the military. If I'd gone back to Italy and stayed for any time over 3 months, I would have automatically been drafted into military service.
And that's not something we have in Canada. So
no.
Thank you so much, Lucio, for being here and for sharing your story.
You're welcome.
I just love the idea that you made a choice to be here, even as a very young adult. Thank you so much for being here, Lucio. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
When we come back after the break, we're going to look at the topic of short-term work visas. It's something that hundreds of thousands of people do from all across the world. They come to Canada as short-term foreign workers. We're going to find out a little bit why they come here and why they choose Hamilton. Welcome back to Coming to Hamilton. I'm Daniel Hyams, and just before the break, you saw some words on the screen that talked about temporary work visas. And the last national census by the Canadian government was in 2011. And in my research, I was looking at that website, and I read that there were 192,000 applicants from across the world that applied for temporary work visas to come to Canada. And out of that 192,000, 15% of those applicants applied to remain here permanently as permanent residents of Canada. Now, that's something that I didn't do. I applied for permanent residency outside of the country and came into the country in 2012 as a federal skilled worker. And just to get my facts right, I did consult with an immigration lawyer whose name is Donna Tikib Shabib, and she is a Hamilton-based lawyer on Houston Street, and her information is on the screen. So feel free to connect with her and find out more information, or if you're someone looking for an immigration lawyer, I highly recommend her. But the process to Canada is very different for everybody. It really is a case-by-case application system. And I wanted to just talk a little bit about what it means to be a foreign temporary worker. Now, how it works, again, is very different for each person, and I'm looking at my notes because I am not an immigration lawyer, but employers have to apply for what's called a labour market impact assessment. And what that means is that an employer has to then look within Canada to fill gaps within the workforce. And if those gaps can't be filled for whatever reason, the employer has the right to then declare that they need to look outside of Canada and bring in temporary foreign workers. And once those foreign workers are here, they do tend to integrate into the community, be part of the community, and then they have the option to apply for Canadian permanent residency. So a huge part of that program is about attracting newcomers to Canada, not only to fill the job shortages, but to really improve and impact our communities, whether it be through languages or cultural differences, or whether it's about upskilling our community. And someone I'm very, very pleased to introduce you to is someone who did just that, Shiona Delaforte, who came from Everyone's going to think I'm only having the British people on here, but we're from the same part of London. So when we were introduced to each other, we hit it off.
Hit it off, yes.
So welcome to the show, welcome to Canada, and welcome to Hamilton.
Thank you for inviting me onto the show, Daniel.
Tell me a little bit about why you came to Canada and why you chose Hamilton.
Well, I'd worked for the prison service in England for a long time, and I decided I needed a career break. I wanted to do something completely different, and Canada was always one place I really wanted to go. I'm interested in nature and the opportunities that were there, so I decided to come as a student and applied for a student visa and a work visa at the same time, and I sent off all my documents to London and
the High Commission of Canada in London.
And within a week they gave me my permit. So
1 week?
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about that process of the application process.
Well, I had to research which college I was going to go to, and I had to get a letter from them to say that they've accepted me onto the public relations program. They had to check that I had enough funds to support myself during the duration of the time I was going to be in Canada. I was not going to depend on the state. I was also asked to submit my resume, what I'd done previously, my work history, and send off the application fee. And
1 week later.
1 week later, yes. I'm very good at form filling. That's all I can say.
So there wasn't much time to think about it then.
No. I was really surprised to get it within 1 week. So my course started 4 months later. So I got rid of my house, said goodbye to colleagues at work.
Left your job?
I left my job, yes, deliberately. And my colleague said, you've done something like career suicide to leave a really, really good job.
Career suicide?
Yes, career suicide. That was what I was told.
That's a new term for me. So within 4 months, here you are in Canada?
Yes, yeah.
In Hamilton?
No, I studied somewhere else in Niagara, but after I completed my program, I was looking around to see where I should go to, and I decided on Hamilton. And a lot of Canadians actually said, don't go to Hamilton, it's Steel City. And something you should know about me, I never listen to people. I wanted to find out for myself, and I read about conservation, and so I thought I'm going to discover this place for myself. So I came and I looked around, and I absolutely fell in love with this place. It made me feel like home. It was I like the history here. You've got Dundon Castle and the gardens there. It was
so
good.
You originally came as a student, and you now have a diploma from a Canadian college.
Yeah.
So that year you came was 2014. 2014.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago. So in 2 years you've come to Canada independently. You've achieved a diploma from a Canadian college, and now what?
Well, if you graduate from a Canadian university or college, you can get something called the postgraduate work visa, which is a temporary work visa. I get mine. So I applied for it because I graduated. I sent off all my paperwork again last July, and 7 months later, so they weren't as quick this time, I got my work visa.
Yeah. So how long is that work visa for?
It's valid for a year, so I would have to leave Canada by February next year.
February 2017 is when it expires. So what is it that you're trying to do to stay here in Canada, or in particular stay here in Hamilton?
Well, Hamilton, I feel, is a place I really want to stay because I've made friends here. There's a great community feel here. I like the fact that there's a lot of community engagement. People care about people who are less fortunate.
So what do you need from the community to stay here?
I would like a job, and also for them to understand what a temporary foreign worker is and the process to actually to get a permanent residency.
So tell us about that.
Okay, so you would have to apply for a labour market impact assessment, which you talked about, and then we'd go through. Then you'd send off the application to a Canadian immigration, and then if that post is available, that they see fit that I'm a suitable person, then I would get that. Yes.
So, what are some of the things that you've done to get into the workforce?
Well, I've sent off applications, my resumes. I've networked a lot.
Well, that's how we met.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I know that accent.
Yes, somebody, a really dear friend, introduced me to you and said, "Oh, you should meet."
Well, I should give a shout out to Donna Reed, who is at the Hamilton store on James Street North.
Yeah.
Donna Reed connected us and sent me an email and said, "You have to meet this girl. She's from London. You must know her." Like, because we all know each other in London. It's a city of 7 million. But you're here. You've got the college degree. This is now time sensitive. I mean, you've effectively got 11 months left before you have to leave for good.
Yes, it would actually break my heart because I really, really want to stay here. I want to contribute. I want to bring all to my skilled experience. Canada also, here you contribute by volunteering. I want to do that. I want to improve. I
know that you've done a lot of volunteering.
Absolutely. I even got an award for volunteering, community engagement. So yes, and here and abroad as well. So I've got a lot of experience.
Sure. I think that what you're saying is that without any doubt that you are trying, but what is it that you would say you need from the community to help you? I mean, I understand that it is a job. If you were to get the job, do you think that would encourage you to then apply for permanent residency and make a permanent life for yourself in Canada?
I have. I really want to be a permanent resident here. I want to be in Canada. I love this country. I love Hamilton. For me to go back at the end of February, to go back to England.
What would you go back to?
Nothing, Daniel. I gave up my house, I gave up my job. So effectively it means starting all over again. Yes, that is, then I would have committed career suicide. But that's 11 months away. I am determined to stay here. I'm determined to find the job. I'm determined to give it my very, very best shot.
Yeah, we will put your Twitter, because everybody communicates through Twitter now.
Yes.
And so we'll put that on the screen because I want people to be able to connect with you, and I'm sure so many people are going to have hundreds and hundreds of questions, and you'll have thousands of answers to their 100 questions.
I'll answer all your questions. Yes. Please connect with me.
What sort of jobs, though? I mean, I know that you're incredibly multi-skilled and very versatile and resilient, but what sort of things are you looking at to be able to do? What do you think that you could do for the community?
I would like to bring my international experience. So if you're making, if you have any trade, you want to connect with the trading in Europe, in Britain, because I worked in government.
And all of that's on your LinkedIn as well.
Yes,
so if they go on your Twitter, you can get to your LinkedIn. And
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Shiona. I will do everything I can to keep you here. I don't want to lose you.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for inviting me onto the show.
Pleasure.
Okay.
You know, Shiona, she represents the 192,000 that come here as temporary work that want to stay, and we have an opportunity to have someone with the motivation, the skills, the aspirations to be here. We're losing talent. Think about this. We're losing talent by not being able to offer people like Shiona in our community the opportunity to stay. So we really need to pull together. We are a resilient community, and these are the true stories of what people are going through. And I think that we are better off when we open our doors and open our hearts like the community has done for me. So if you feel that you can help Shiona, then please connect with her through her Twitter or connect with me. Call up Cable 14, we'll put you in touch with her, we don't mind. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. This is the second episode. We'll be back in 1 month's time for the third episode, where I'm going to introduce people who have moved to Hamilton from within Canada. Domestic migration, I call it. But for this, thank you, Shiona. Thank you, Lucio. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you very soon. Take care.